Welcome back to the Next Level Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Antomarchi, and our next guest went from collegiate volleyball athlete to chef to being a really bad horse trainer to being a dog trainer to being one of the best decoys in the world. I'm honored and blessed to be able to sit down with my fellow Puerto Rican, Carlos Ramirez, where we sit down and talk about his complete journey, not only as a very, very good decoy, but man, the dude is a savvy canine trainer, and he understands psychologically what needs to happen, not only to the dog, but to the handler as well. Super impressed by this conversation. I hope that you guys enjoy episode 2 of the Next Level Podcast. We are here with Carlos Ramirez.
Yes, sir.
Carlos, thanks for taking the time to just hang
course,
out.
man.
You got an opportunity to catch my dog, which I appreciate. So I followed you for a long time
Cool.
and always kind of wasn't able to go where you're going to bring my dog. So this worked out perfect this time.
Good. Yeah.
It's worth mentioning that we're here at Hold the Line Conference. Were you here last year in Pittsburgh one?
This is my third year that I've been teaching, and it's every year it keeps getting better, man. It just keeps getting bigger and better.
That's what I'm hearing. So this is my first time at Hold the Line, but
Okay.
every single person that said this, literally the same exact thing is every year it's been getting better. Quality instructions and uniquely, and I think this is a testament to what you guys are doing. Everyone says, unlike some other places, the instructors are very approachable and available to people, which, you don't think about that sometimes, but
and when you think you're paying these big fees to go to conferences and stuff, and then you don't get access to the people, just kind of what they have to teach. You don't get the whole experience. Because here, every time I'm done teaching one of my classes, there's like 5-6 people that were not just like in a line waiting to talk to me. No, the whole group of 5 or 6 of us together bouncing ideas and, talking about it. And that's where growth happens, because a lot of people don't know this, but like we instruct, dude, I learned so much from these things.
Amen.
I come here to learn. So I'm kind of getting a free ticket to all these lessons just by instructing. But I learn from the people I'm teaching to. Because they tell me things that I don't have access to, right? I'm a civilian, never been in law enforcement or the military. So just having these guys give me this feedback on things that I don't have access to, that teaches me a ton.
Amen.
Also, there's people, I've been doing this for almost 12 years now. There's people here who have been doing it for 30. Right? So I'm 38. I'm about to be 38 years old on May 12th. So man, that means that I was 8 years old when that guy was starting,
So speaking of that, Carlos, there might be some people who don't know who you are. Give us the 411 on who Carlos Ramirez is.
Awesome, man. So I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. And obviously we got that going. But I played volleyball growing up, and the Ohio State University just recruited me and gave me a scholarship.
Dude, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's how I came to the U.S. I played volleyball and they recruited me. I played for the Olympic team since I was little, because in Puerto Rico, if you're tall, you're a freak and you're going to play sports. There's no way out of it.
It's very true.
So I literally got recruited in the mall. Like I was like 11, 12 years old.
Bro.
And somebody saw me walking and they were like, look at that tall dude.
And volleyball's huge in Puerto Rico.
It's big.
And not a lot of people know that. So if you've never been exposed to that, you wouldn't know that. But
exactly. In Puerto Rico, is baseball, basketball, and volleyball are the same.
Yeah, and boxing.
Boxing. But not everybody can go boxing. That's true. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But we can all go play volleyball.
Exactly.
Right? So
exactly.
That's the difference on it, man. But it's big. And that brought me to the U.S. And after being in Ohio, like I didn't click with it. It just too big of a difference.
Way different.
In climate, And I was one of those Puerto Ricans that never left the island.
Wow.
So I never traveled other than to go to Disney couple of days and come back home.
Bro, you sound like my cousins.
So if I travel, I would travel internationally to go play like volleyball tournaments. But internationally, it's kind of like Puerto Rico. Like in Europe, it's very similar to Puerto Rico versus the U.S. is super foreign. So going to Ohio State, it was a huge contrast. There was like 65,000 students that first year.
Wow.
I'd never seen 65,000 people anywhere.
You
know what
exactly,
I mean? So walking into just like the horseshoe, the football field, because you're an athlete, you get access to the field.
Yes.
When I walked in and that thing was packed to the roof, man, the energy, it was like
insane.
Almost, it will make you feel so small. I never felt anything like that. So it was a great experience, but it was hard because the climate was so different. So I moved to San Diego. I was there for a bit. I went to culinary school. Did not like that. Yeah, I went to culinary school. I did not click with it. I worked even at a restaurant. Do you ever heard of the Stone Brewery?
Yeah.
I cooked at their original brewery.
Oh, wow.
I was at the World Bistro in Escondido, California. That's my first chef job, and it was my last. Like I worked there, man, and I spending 10 hours straight on this kitchen, everybody yelling at each other. Like it was just not for me. I'm more of a being outside type of guy.
Yeah.
So I went back home to Puerto Rico, like lost, man. I didn't know what to do.
Wow.
And my family in Puerto Rico, we grew up in a horse farm. So we had horses and everything. So my dad was like, hey, get to training horses. If you're going to be here, it's cool. You can figure out what you want to do next, but get to work.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
So I'm out there training horses, and my grandma is watching me, and she can tell like I'm not having fun, you know.
Wow.
And in my time off, I would teach the dogs in the farm to like roll over, just stupid stuff, right? And one day, joking, she tells me, maybe you should be a dog trainer. Kind of like you suck with horses, go to dogs.
That's so funny.
And I'm like, you know what? Out of spite, I'm gonna look into it. And I legitimately just Googled it.
Yeah.
And I found the Tom Rose School in Missouri. I thought it was this super exclusive thing that you apply if you get accepted. No, I mean, if you pay, you'll go.
Of course.
You know, but I didn't know that.
That's awesome.
So I just went out there, man. I got started on all of it. And then I graduated. I went to the professionals and then the master's course. And in that school, they're very good at telling you, you know everything. You're in the 1% of dog trainers when you graduate from here. You're going to be great. So I left brainwashed. Like, dude, I got this.
Wow.
So I moved back to Miami and I started working. And just with pets, I realized I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Wow. There's
so many times where I had a situation happen and I would just think, what do I do?
Right.
I don't know what to do. The only thing that comes to mind is force. Just add more force. But I know that's not the answer.
Right.
So that's when I said, I need to step back. Stop charging people because you don't have enough.
Wow.
And I just went, and that's when I got my apprenticeship with Ritland.
Nice.
At Tricos. I was like, I need to go learn more.
Dude.
So I just went and became a kennel tech for him. Basically, I was a kennel master, but it was really like a cleaning position because he did all the training.
Of course.
So slowly, as I earned my stripes and stuff.
In East Texas?
He's in Cooper, Texas. Is where I was. So, and man, it just became more and more freedom until I was doing a lot.
How did you hook up with Mike?
That's another cool story, man. So when I moved to Gainesville, like I was telling you, to UF over there, just because we had to be there, and there was a kennel right next to where I used to live in Ocala that had like people working dogs. So I was like, it's the closest place. I'm gonna see if they need help and stuff. And I just went over. And they told me, we need help always. Start working here. And it happens to be that the guy who Ritland hired to go run the contracts with him when he got the contracts for the teams in the West Coast lived in that city.
No way.
He just happens to live there. He owns a construction company. He doesn't even do dogs anymore. He just owns a construction company.
Wow.
He just likes dogs. So on the weekends, he will go to that kennel and just do bite work. Like he will go to club and just hang out, basically. Not even to like guarantee. He would just go hang out. So the owner of the kennel told him like, hey, I got this decoy I want you to meet. And back then I didn't know anything, man.
Right.
And that guy was pretty hardcore. He was at the pretty top of the game back then. And dude, he smacked me around. Like it was like a tryout, like he beat the crap out of me and stuff. And he's like, okay, you can come back next week and I'll teach you.
Wow.
And I just started like working with him, and he started kind of mentoring me, and I apprenticed under him. And then happens to be that he was Ritland's best friend, man. Like they're super close.
That's amazing, bro.
Dude, I'm not kidding. So I'm sitting one day on my couch, like I'm sitting here talking to you, and I'm talking to she was my girlfriend back then. Now she's my wife.
Yeah.
And my phone rings, and I'm like San Diego number, but I live there, right? So I'm like, some random friend from back in the day probably is calling me.
Yeah.
So when I answer it, he's like, hey, how's it going? It's Mike Ritland. I got your information. I have a position. I need a kennel master. Are you interested?
Wow.
And I'm like, get out of here, man. What do you mean? And he's like, no, it's actually me, Mike Ritland.
That's hilarious, bro.
This dude gave me your information. Would you be interested? And I was like, absolutely. When do you need me there? And he's like, as soon as possible. I was like, I'll be there tomorrow if I could.
Wow.
He's like, no, realistically, when can you be here? And I was like, no, realistically, I'll be there in like a day or two. And he's like, well, if you're about it. And I told my girlfriend back then, hey, I gotta go. I got this one in a lifetime opportunity. And she's like, let's go. And we literally packed all our stuff. She quit her job and we left.
That's amazing, bro.
And I just went out there, and for like almost 2 years, I ran, like we did everything. I ran his facility. And at the end, he literally told me, he's like, you need to go do your own thing. You need to go open your own company, do your own thing. You need to get out there. And I was so comfortable there. I was like, for what, man? Like, this is good. I got exposed to these really cool guys. We get to do cool stuff. So I'm good here. And he's like, no, you need to go do more. And he pretty much told me, you either go, man, or I'll fire you. So you have to go.
Wow.
And they gave me this really good recommendation letter and told me, here, get a job anywhere.
Talk about understanding in your personal, professional development and putting a hard line. That's Yeah. Dude, that's special. Not everybody can do that for somebody. Yeah. I'm sure that meant a lot to you.
It was hard, man. It was hard because I had an opportunity to still make money because I had the credentials to go charge people, right? See, I was a certified master dog trainer that to those who know how little it means.
Right.
But to the people who were paying me,
that's true.
They didn't know.
It's true.
It was just pet clients.
Yep.
They didn't know any better.
Yeah.
They saw a certification. That's good enough for me, right?
For sure.
So, but I knew it that I always, being the guy who talks about it is just not enough. Man, like I seen people, and it happens in this industry a lot, that they hype themselves up. They say all these things, right, that are not true. And the sad part for me is not that they say the lie, is that they believe it.
That's the
these guys that literally say, like, I was in the special forces, I deploy with whatever, but they never did any of that, right? And I'm a civilian, man. I never even wore a uniform.
Right. Yep.
But I know my place and I know what I haven't done, right? Amen. But these guys are saying these lies, and then I work with that team, and they're like, hey, do you know so-and-so? And they're like, who?
Yeah.
So it's not just that they feel good about saying it. Yeah. They actually believe it.
That's crazy.
And there's like a disease in the brain that has to be associated with that, man.
Absolutely, bro.
I feel like I have the opposite. I'm so self-conscious about what I don't know.
Right.
Like it's so obvious in my brain what I don't know that I always felt like, hey, I want to be the dumbest one in the room and the poorest in the room, right? Yeah. So I knew that I need to go get in uncomfortable places that is gonna, push you to that spot.
Of course.
If you think about it, everybody who has made it, that has been in the military, that's been in law enforcement, dude, they pay their dues. They have to work so hard to get where they're at.
Absolutely.
So why am I just because I pay for school? No, dude, you have to go pay your dues just as well.
Yeah.
And obviously it's gonna be in a completely different way.
Yes.
But it's not gonna be handed to you.
Yeah.
You have to go earn this.
Yeah.
And a lot of people lose sight out of that. It's like it feels a lot better when you actually are doing it, but nobody knows, than saying and people knowing, but you're not doing it.
Yep.
Right? So for me, I was like, how can I get to do it? Go work for free or very cheap.
Yep.
So when I go back from Ridland, I go back to Florida after those 2 years. He told me go on your own, move back to Ocala because that's where I knew and where I met people. And it happened to be because I worked with him, I developed these pretty like executive clients that had very expensive dogs.
Yep.
And they would pay me very well to work their dogs in like a group class on Sundays. So it kind of allowed to where I didn't have to work the whole week because on just 4 Sundays a month were good enough. I was making like $1,200, $1,500 in that one day.
Beautiful.
Charging like $150 per dog, $150 per dog.
Yeah.
And I would get almost 10 dogs every Sunday.
That's great.
And that was enough, right?
Yeah.
So what allowed was that Monday through Saturday, I had nothing to do. So I went to my local police department, which was Marion County Sheriff's Office. Yeah. And I told them, hey, if you guys need help, I'll work for free. And they were like, well, we're in luck because we have a handler's course starting right now.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, perfect timing. Like, God lined it up for me.
Amen.
And so I go and it's with Jeremy Nix from the Marion County Sheriff's Office, dude. Great teacher, great mentor. And he allowed me. And I was just this fly on the wall, just getting bit. I just got hammered time and time again. And just absorbing all the tactic stuff that we're doing because I don't know any of this.
Yeah.
So I'm just sitting there, and it's not like I know tactics in any way. I know how to receive tactics.
Right.
The people are normally using tactics on me. I'm the bad guy.
How were you received, Carlos, coming from as a civilian? Did you feel like there was some tension there? Because I know 100%. How our industry can be.
Yeah. No, it wasn't like I felt it. It was told to my face.
Oh, wow.
I had people tell me to my face, as long as I'm on this department, a civilian is never going to train my dogs.
Wow.
People told me that to my face. My response was, I just have to weigh you out.
Yeah.
You're on your way out. Because it was always the older guys who did that. Versus the younger guys who were texting me, messaging me through social media.
Yes.
Dude, we need you. Please come over. We need your help. Like, we have a dog having that exact problem you're talking about. We need that help.
Wow.
But somebody was blocking it. And I remember telling one specific guy in a department in Florida, I just have to weigh you out. And he was like, yeah, we'll see about that. Dude, like a year and a half later, retires. First thing that new sergeant does is brings me into training day.
That's amazing.
I took a picture and be like, told you.
Oh my God.
Took a selfie and I'm like,
that's great, bro.
Yeah, but it's something that people are afraid of change. And also, when you bring someone that is going to teach you something different, it's not better. It's just different, right? In a way, you have to accept that if you have success or your guys have success with that new stuff, maybe you didn't have the tools necessary to help them.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of, you have to check your pride to accept, guys, I don't have what you need, but this guy does. And on top of that, he's not even a cop. right? But what I always say is, anyone can learn from everything. Anyone can learn from anyone, even how not to do stuff, right? And Jay Nix, he taught me this. You can learn 3 things from everyone you learn. One is a new way how to do it, that you're already doing it right. You confirm like we're already doing the right thing, or how not to do it.
Yep.
Right? Multiple times I'm watching people decoy and I'm like, man, this guy's good. And then they put their hand somewhere they shouldn't. The dog snatches a finger and I'm like, whoop, I'm not doing that with that dog.
Yeah. He still learned something though.
He taught me what not to do.
Absolutely.
So you can always learn from everyone. But having that wall, you know, of people telling you you're not law enforcement, you're not military. All you have to do is, man, keep your head down, be humble, be quiet, and just keep going.
Yeah.
It is going to be that way. Like when I came to this country, people told me, you're going to be mistreated, you're going to be whatever, you're going to be being discriminated against. Bro, that happens in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, right.
It happens everywhere you go.
Of course,
you know what
does.
I mean? Like I know people that are from Africa that tell me, dude, Africa is one of the most racist countries there is.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So that happens everywhere. I keep my head down, focus on my work, my family, and helping, and that's it. The rest just happens.
Yep.
So, but yeah, we're always just trying to learn from as many people as possible. So whether you're law enforcement or not, like we'll learn from you, and I'll steal it and teach it forward. Because not a single thing that I teach is mine. Yeah. Everything I learned from somebody else, added my flavor, and now I'm selling it forward, you know.
Oh, I love it. And then talk to us about what you're doing now. I know you've teamed up with Nesbeth and some of the things you guys do. Are you guys always doing things together? Are you doing something separate? What does that look like?
So we do both, man. Yeah. And the crazy part is that Nesbeth and I met after I was working with that guy who mentored me and stuff. We met at an event in New England. It was called New England Street Tactics a long time ago. And we met for the very first time there. And then we started talking and he saw me decoy and I watched him decoy. And I was like, man, you decoy very similar to what I do. You're explaining the things the same way I explain them, using the analogies that I use. I learned that from my mentor. Yeah. Like, and then he came over to me and I was like, bro, like, where do you learn that? And he's like, oh, there's this guy in Ocala.
No freaking
And I'm like,
way.
No way.
That's crazy.
He's like, yeah. And I was like, are you learned from so-and-so? He's like, yeah, do you know him? And I'm like, he's my mentor. I just left there. He's like, bro, he was there before me.
Wow.
Or no, after me, sorry. So when I left, he went there.
Wow.
Or vice versa. I don't remember really the order, if he was with him before me. But we both learned. So Nesbeth and I learned from the same guy. Yeah. And this dude lives in Toronto and I live in Florida.
That's incredible.
So, but Nesbeth pretty much spent part of his high school and college in Florida. Yeah. So that's how he was there as well. Wow. So when we met in that seminar, it was actually, we kept talking and just like hanging out, like just over the phone and getting in contact. And I think it was his wife that kept pushing. You guys need to do a seminar together. You guys need to do a seminar together. Wow. But back then we were not doing seminars like that. It was like if we got invited to decoy at an event, we were blessed. It was like, man, we got invited. We're not going to get paid. We paid our own flights and hotels. We were just excited to be there, right? And his wife, Ali, she pushed until we did it. We did one in Canada. Man, it was awesome. And the first time we taught together, we were bouncing off of each other like we'd done it our whole life. But it's because we learned from the same guy. Yeah. So then we just went on the road, man, and it just helped. And when we started doing seminars where I did a seminar by myself, and I'm like, man, this is rough when dude is not here. And he would tell me the same. He's like, bro, it's so much better when we work that way, right? But we still get a lot of requests individually. Yes. So we spend he does more events than I do, but we spend quite a bit of time together on the road, man.
I love the dynamic. One of the things that you guys had mentioned was someone asked a question and you both looked at each other and smiled and said, it's going to be interesting because we have a different perspective on this.
We disagree on it.
And I love that so much. And someone started to clap. I think it was Steve White started clapping, which is funny because we recognize how important that is and how unique that is in our industry. It's not something you see a lot. Gentlemen that are willing to work through their differences and say, hey, this is my perspective. I don't have to speak negatively about the way he perceives it. This is the way he teaches it. You should probably listen to both, right? Yeah. And I think speak to that because I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I always use the phrase, I love that for you.
Yeah.
If it works, I love that for you, man. That's awesome. I'm glad that's working for you. This works for me. Yes. You know what I mean? It's like whenever somebody has a really fast car and you also have a fast car, I'm like, man, that's a cool car. I recognize your skill. I see you're fast. So am I. Right. No, one doesn't take from the other. Right. Right. So it's the same with him. I've learned so much from that dude that there's no way I can have any type of resentment from doing stuff because I'm learning from him constantly. And then I hear shit that I say, and he's repeating it. And I'm like, oh, he got that from me.
Got
right?
him. Yeah,
exactly. But also something that it happens in front of us, and it's people say that. People are like, bro, like how you didn't get mad that he do that? Me standing in front of 100 people crowd, I will say something, and he'll be like, no, that's wrong. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, no, that's not. Like, it happened. We were talking about like classical conditioning, and I mentioned to the group, I'm like, you know, it takes like 1,000 repetitions. There's no other way to condition something. And he's like, no, that's wrong. What about single event learning?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, shit, now that you mention it, single event learning, if it's impactful enough, it will get ingrained in one go.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, it's not just that. Yeah, normally it takes a lot of reps.
Yeah.
Or if we make it impactful enough.
Of course.
And I'm like, bingo, there you go.
But that's in live.
Yeah. No, it happened in front of the people. Like, we're literally standing next to each other in front of the crowd.
Wow.
Right? But there's absolutely no ego on that. Yeah. And I stand from the point that I'm going to learn so much more. Dude, like, I know so little. I just say that I'm just good at telling stories.
Right.
But I know so little that you cannot get upset when somebody tells you there's another way, or that the way you're doing it is not as efficient.
Yeah.
Like, what, were you expecting it? You already had everything?
Right.
No.
Which that's interesting you say it that way. There's some parallels between your relationship with Nesbeth and mine with Paul Curtis.
Cool.
Paul and I, our mentor is Tony Guzman from Miami.
Cool.
And Paul lives in Tennessee. I live in Dallas. He's a country boy. He's 6 foot, whatever. I'm 5 foot nothing.
Yeah.
You know, Puerto Rican, white boy. Like but we're so different. But when it comes to the perspective, and we teach a lot on instincts and psychological traits, we come from the same tree is the way we say it. We're branches from the same tree. And how we got to some of the answers, how we explain certain things may be different, but you're going to get the same material and the same perspective on a lot of the stuff. However, Paul and I, it's funny enough, disagree on certain things on dogs fighting in defense.
Okay.
I think that there is a need to a certain degree. He thinks there's pretty much nothing. And he has a great point of why he feels that way.
Absolutely.
And we also share that. But we were inspired by what you guys did the first day to make sure that was a point for our class. Because we, amongst each other, we talk about it. But it's better for other people to see you be able to express that amongst each other and do it in love. We're not doing it maliciously. We're just saying, hey, we actually disagree on this. This has worked out for me. This is why I feel this way. Paul, explain why you disagree. And for some people that might be confusing. Like, shouldn't you guys be on the same page? Well, we're not the same mind either. We don't have the same experiences.
The same background.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So I just love that so much. I think it's worth mentioning.
And like Nesbeth, his original background wasn't French ring. When he first started, he had access to a French ring club. That's what was around him.
Yeah.
So that's what he started with. I started directly from school straight into law enforcement and military.
Yeah.
I never got exposed to any type of sports. That's why I don't do it. Not because I don't have anything against sports. I think sports are amazing.
Yeah.
Because to the people that are not law enforcement or military, what else are going to do with their dogs?
Yep.
They get to go do stuff with their dogs,
yeah.
right? So I never got exposed to that background, but he did. So you know how much feedback he has for leg work and things that I don't?
Yeah, the French ring stuff is insane with that stuff. Yeah, that's a lot there.
Bingo. And then he lives in Canada where the political area is not the same that in Marin County, Florida.
Very different.
You know what I mean?
Very different.
So whenever I'm working with my law enforcement guys, that we get so much more freedom for a civilian to be involved, he doesn't get that out there.
Really?
Not as much as I do. He doesn't get the freedom where the guys literally give you the uniform, be like, yo, come be one of us.
Yeah.
Right? I get that.
I love it.
The guys that I work with, these guys are like getting after it like big time. He has these guys out there that do the same.
Yeah.
But the difference is how I get free reign to my guys. He's not the same because the departments can't have that out there. Right? So everybody has completely different backgrounds. We do things the same but different. Even though we're pretty close to each other physically, like we're as tall, we weigh about the same.
Yeah.
Dude is black and I'm white as hell. He has a big old hair. I have short hair.
Yeah.
I speak funny. He doesn't have an accent. So, dude, those things matter. And matter to the dogs, too. Yeah. I seen that man with a dog here. The dog is being all cool and comfortable. And he goes, chicken, and lets his hair down. And things change.
Yeah.
The dog see what happened, right?
Wow.
So there's no way that we're going to do everything the same. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So that's why I love that for you, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's working for
Absolutely.
you. Look at it work for me my way.
Absolutely.
And it's more of I recognize your way works, but mine is so successful for me. I'm not gonna change it for yours.
Exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm not gonna use it. I guarantee you, there's gonna be a dog.
Oh yeah.
Coming around here that I'm gonna be like, you know what, my method is failing. Let me try Michael's.
Two things can be true at the same time.
Bingo.
And that's the way I would kind of summarize that. And if you can agree to disagree, but at the same time recognize there's some truth to what that person's saying, and that there will be a dog one day that will absolutely benefit from your way. Exactly. That's important. And it's so interesting because we come from the background of instincts and psychological traits. We preach all the time that the dog in front of you is the one that you need to train. Not the one that you just trained or the one, I don't care what if he looks like, whatever. Yep. So the evaluation process is so important for us because that gives us a baseline of what the dog is in front of us. You guys did that the minute that you took a bite from my dog. You're analyzing from the beginning, what am I working with? And I'm going to adjust. It's not like you had a plan. As soon as you come here, Steve, we're going to do X, Y, Z with your dog. It's like, I have no idea until I can evaluate that.
Exactly.
Speak to that a little bit because I think it's important.
And man, I was evaluating what you were doing the second you walked into the door.
Yeah.
Remember I was saying it? I was like, I saw how much control and how good your dog was in obedience. And I was like, I bet you I can mess with him by trying to get him to listen to me.
Yes.
Because he's been taught, listen.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
So when I saw that, I was like, all right, I'm taking notes already. Look how good he listens to him. But I also noticed that you were very nice with him. Like you were not manhandling him. You were like, if you don't want to heal, that's fine. There's a consequence to that and it doesn't come from me.
Yes.
I could read it. So that tells me this dog probably has a great relationship with him.
Thank you, man.
So I can involve you way more into the bite work, right? Yeah. So I'm making all of those decisions before even the dog goes into the back tie.
It's beautiful.
I'm just reading you the language coming in, right? If I have a handler that I see the manhandling the dog, I'm boy and no and all this stuff on the way in, that's what I'm gonna do to add stress to that dog.
Yeah.
Because there's no one in this world that dog probably is more worried about than their handler.
So when he inserts himself into the bite work, you see a lot of the conflict and everything else.
Yeah. So I keep that in mind too. If I'm gonna put the dog in a bad spot that I'm gonna be adding pressure, don't add the handler because it's not gonna help.
I love it.
Right. So I gotta take all of that into consideration. And then from that to the back tie, to how the dog puts his initial grip, to the first time I present a little stressor. And all of that gives me a little feedback that I start tweaking my plan on the fly.
Yeah.
Now, if you and I were doing a handler's course, that's different. There's going to be an evaluation period, a day or two, and then we're making a concrete plan, and we're going to stick to that based on your dog.
Yeah.
Every dog in the course gets their own plan.
Love it.
Because not every dog is the same. So a lot of evaluation, reading dogs, it's paramount, but that experience too comes from how many dogs you see.
Yes.
Right? Like that's some of the things that being on the road so often helps because we get to see like 1,500 dogs a year.
I want to go back to something you said, having a plan for each dog. I love that because I know you haven't been to our class, but we do a profile for each dog. So we're evaluating every instinct that we find in the dog and psychological traits, and we scale it from 0 to 10. Perfect. And according to what your dog has, we know that we can either add this pressure or not, or that's not the way to get to X, Y, Z, whatever you were trying to get to. So it's interesting that you're taking a similar approach where it's like, let me be fair. And in order to be fair, I have to evaluate this dog.
Bingo.
And then once we evaluate, and we all can agree, which I think is important too. Like, handler, do you understand these things? Do you agree with what we're seeing?
Have you seen it? You also seen the same issues?
Exactly. Because you get buy-in from the handler at that point. Like, oh shit, we did this evaluation, and we'll say, hey, look, if your dog, because we have no idea what's about to happen, if your dog does this, this is what's happening. This is why. And if it does the other thing, this is why we're going to adjust our training. Yeah. And sometimes for me, that's helpful because especially newer handlers, they see another handler have success working their dog a certain way, and they think I need to emulate that. And I'm sure you probably see a lot of that in bite work.
And it's not just like I want to emulate it. It comes more to when it comes to the measurement. They want to measure their dog against another dog.
Yes.
And then we have different breeds, different maturity stages, different maturity speeds, different upbringings. So you have a dog that at 18 months is a monster. Genetically, they're mature or fairly close to it at 18 months. And then you get one that matures at 2.5. And they're in the same unit. Yep. And the handler is like, why do you have that dog in such a bad spot, but you're being nice to mine? Yeah. And well, your dog's not ready for it. And they're like, is he weak? And I'm like, no, he's young. But he's older than that one. Maturity doesn't have to do with age.
Exactly, yes.
You know, so I seem to, or when you work with civilians, you have the Corsos and the Presos.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, at 2 years old, they're babies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And to the point that people wash them and they're like, this dog is not good. He's 2 years old. He should have it by now. And then by 3, they have to get rid of the dog because they can't handle it.
This is crazy.
Because in one day, the dog said, I'm a bad dude.
Yeah.
Right? So every dog is independent. Every dog is different. There's so many factors. In top of that, every handler is different.
It's true too. You add that right? that's a factor you can't deny
at all. Like there's a handler that keeps his dog in a 5x10 run in the back, and there's one that the dog sleeps with him in the couch. Right? And then those dogs will perform different, for better or for worse. Either of those two situations.
For sure.
I have dogs that I have to tell the handlers, dude, get that dog out of the run, put him in your couch for a bit.
Yeah.
The run is winding his ass up. But the second you put him to have a normal dog life, they actually come down. They're good in the house. They're good on the road. We find balance.
Love it.
There's some other dogs that when you get them in Miami to track and at noon on a July day, they're going to be like, dude, what?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to go back home to play with so-and-so.
Yep.
Let's just go back in the car.
Yep.
Right? So we have to, every dog is different and create an independent plan for them. Every handler is different. Every department SOPs are different. So what you allow, dude, the things that my guys are able to do in Marion County,
it's different.
Will get people in prison in New York.
Yeah. It's
or
true.
LA.
You're not overstating that. Like,
no, I'm not
I know there's some drama to it, but that's exactly true. That there's.
I 100%. If my guys go deploy in New York like they do in Marion County, Florida, they will go to prison.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Because we get the freedom of safety of the handler and the officers comes above everything.
Yep.
So it's very easy for them to articulate that dog had to bite that, and we had to fight them and cause that much damage because I was at risk.
Yep.
And nobody questions that. Admin doesn't. The public doesn't. Marion posts 90% of their bites on Facebook.
Wow.
Like the second they happen.
Wow.
Just open to the public. And you go to the comment section, and the common thread is, go get it, Ken and Leo. Go do this, whatever. The public has their back.
Isn't that amazing, that level of support there?
Yep. And then watch, when I go work with LAPD, they show me their post on TMC, and the comment section is like, screw the cause, pigs.
Right.
How are you going to feel free to go do your job when that's the support you're going to get? You're not.
Very true.
Versus my guys, when they get after someone, they know there's no wrong here.
Yeah.
I can't do wrong. Like these guys, as long as I follow these rules, because just as they get freedom, they're strict on you have to follow these rules.
Yep.
We have to check these boxes so we can keep getting after it. But they do. And we have such a good unit because of it.
Yes.
Right? But every department is different. And I'm telling you, if we deploy like we do in Marion, in LA, they will go to prison. And if LA deploys like they do in Marion, it's not going to work the same because we don't have the resources that they do.
That's a good point.
We cover an area where backup might be 20 minutes away. It's just you and your dog. They don't do that.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just not the same environment. So why are we going to use the same training techniques, the same thing? It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Right? Gooseby and the control that he's able to get and teach to those guys is amazing. And trust me, I can use that in Marion as well. It's not useful.
Right.
But it's not necessary.
Yeah.
I'm not healing amongst a bunch of people in a crowd because I cannot send my dog.
Yep.
No, these guys, he said, bro, you run, you're getting bit.
Yep.
Period. Very simple, right? They have way more things they have to deal with than we do.
Yeah.
So when we talk about training techniques, every dog, every department, and more like we travel teaching classes stuff, right? You better be flexible in your things you have because some things we teach and you can hear the guys tell us, we can do that here.
Yeah, and training to your operation is important, right?
Exactly.
And so something like this, and I don't know if you find it difficult, I increasingly find it difficult because I want to specify so much, and I don't want to be too general, and I want to be specific. So it's like, all right, we're in South Carolina. What's the temperature here like? What politically, what am I dealing with here? But then I'm like, well, they got a bunch of people from North Carolina, and I met a bunch of guys from New York, so. You know what? I'm just going to give you my perspective from what I've known, the guys that I deal with, and understand and caveat that you may not want to deploy this way because of XYZ.
Exactly. I compare it to like the firearms company. How many weapons do the firearms company offer? A bunch of different models. How many do the military uses? Only a few.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because it's specific to their mission.
Specifically to what NATO allows.
Yes. Yeah, right?
Yeah. So SOPs dictate what tools they can have. That doesn't mean that the people who deal with firearms only do NATO stuff.
Yeah.
No, we put broad work, but NATO chooses what is good from my offerings.
Right.
So it's no different in training. I teach you all these tools. You know your SOPs. You pick from my offerings what applies to your rules. Right. I'll tell you how my American County guys do it without having to worry about so much control. I show you how they do it with control, and I can also tell you how LAPD does it with a ton of control.
Yeah.
Right. So you pick what technique is best for your working environment.
Yeah.
Either because of handler safety, because of target-rich environments, or but because of the political climate in that area. You know, you have to take all of that into consideration. And when you start talking about it, people start realizing this is so much more than just dogs.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the law enforcement side, dogs is almost at the end.
It's true.
It's almost the last thing, man. Because when you think about it, how many boxes we have to check before even the dog gets out of the car.
It's very true.
It's not really about the dog.
Yep.
Right? And we know there's no dog tactics. There's human tactics that the dogs get attached to. That's not my, obviously I'm not law enforcement military. I don't know stuff about tactics. But for 12 years, dude, I've been sitting back watching these guys run tactics. Yep. And I cannot tell you what you should be doing, but I can tell you, don't turn left there. Don't make that left. You know what I mean? It's not going to help you. So, yeah, everything is different in different areas, and we need to be able to adapt on the fly.
To your point about, the dog sometimes is the last thing we go to. One of the best compliments I can give a handler who is very new and is maturing is when he calls me and says, hey, man, we got called to do this. And I said, no. And I'm like, good for you, bro, because the dog is not the end all be all. He can't solve all the problems. And the fact that you're recognizing that, hey, this guy with the gun who maybe shot somebody is not a situation for a dog. But 2 months ago, you were like, let's fucking go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It shows maturity in the way they're processing some of this information. And for me, if we want our dogs to be critically thinking, then we also have to be critical thinkers.
Absolutely. And think about it from this perspective. What do you think that brand new handler just got on the road? One, he's eager beaver to use his dog.
Right.
And two, he has the drug unit standing there telling him, bro, I need to get in that car.
That's true too. Yeah.
And his dog runs once and he's like, Dad, there's nothing there. And he's like, are you sure? Because this guy said there is. What I always say at that point is, think about every hour, every struggle you put in the school, in your academy, in whatever you went to get the certification to be able to hit the road. That's what's at stake.
At stake. You're exactly
in that
right.
one spot. If you prove your dog or your decision making to be faulty, it will always be questioned. But when you trust your training so bad that you can even tell those NARC guys, dude, there's nothing in there. If you're so sure, you get in the car.
Yeah. And by the way, the dogs are not perfect.
And they're not perfect.
And if the dog, if we're teaching the dog to respond to trained odor, what if it's not available to the dog? What if it's in the car but not available to the dog yet, right? And there's so much that goes into the odor and the ability for the dog to detect that. Sometimes, depending on how long it's been sitting there, how it's packaged, it's just simply not available to the dog. And dogs are, fallible. They make mistakes too. But there's the other aspect there. So I think we're in a good spot where guys are happy about no alerts because they're like, man, I had a quality sniffs, no alert. I feel really good about that. Because that speaks to the mentality of the dog. He's not thinking every vehicle is hot. He just says, plainly speaking, I'm just looking for trained odor. If it's not there, it's not there. I still did my job.
I didn't lose anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's one of the things when I do my courses in detection, I want them to be detections of where it's not. I don't want them to be good at telling me where it's at. Anyone can do that.
Yep.
Tell me where it's not. When the dog runs something and doesn't indicate, are you sure? Like if I tell you, are you sure you want to check that room again? You tell me, nope, I'm good. Right? That's the type of thing that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Trust your dog to the point that there's no question on it, right? But caveat to that is your dog doing trustworthy things?
Yeah. Trust your dog if he's good, if he's been trained well.
You know how many times I'm at either visiting or helping somewhere, and I hear the instructor say, trust your dog. And I'm sitting here like, dude, that dog hasn't done one trustworthy thing since I showed up.
Amen.
I wouldn't trust him either.
Yep.
Right? Trust your training.
Yeah, there you go.
If your dog is showing good in training, if your dog is showing you everything, trust that.
Yeah.
Just because he's a dog, dude, these guys are opportunists. He's going to find his advantage. And that might not be your way.
Yep.
Right? So make sure that you trust your dog because you truly believe what they're doing. You trust the work you put in, and then protect it.
Yep.
Protect your work, protect your dog's credibility, Because the one quick, hey, yeah, let's get inside that car, will throw all your work out the window.
Very true.
Most people and law enforcement officers don't know how much money we get offered to be subject matter experts
against them.
Against
yep,
cops.
It's very true.
Dude, I get called constantly, and we turn it down because my career is more important to me, and like helping all law enforcement officers. A lot of times when I get called and they send me the video and stuff, I call the department like, bro, you guys are screwed, man. You need to go get help.
Yep.
I didn't take the case. I'm never gonna do it.
Right.
But there's other people who will.
Yep. It's very
There's
true.
people teaching seminars who have taken cases against handlers.
Yep. It's
right.
Very true.
And one of the cases that I remember like today, I got offered 80 grand. All I had to do was sit in that stand and say he made a mistake. And when I looked at the video, he made a mistake. Homie did it wrong. Dog ran like 3 times around the car. On the 3rd time, you see the handler look up to the side where the other officers are, and he goes, didn't ask the dog to search hide the entire time. You see the dog look at the handler's hand and go, oh, beep, and sits. And he's like, we're good, boys, get in.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm like, no, I can help you with that. And I'm like, bro, you're screwed.
Yeah,
you need to go get help. So that's the part is that you need to really be proactive at keeping yourself straight and safe from stuff like that, because there's people proactively trying to screw you over.
Oh yeah.
There's lawyers, paralegals going to conferences. That's why I like teaching at this conference, because they make sure that doesn't happen. But there's other conferences, if they don't care, they let anybody in through the door. And this terminology that we're teaching, they're learning. And they're going to use it against you.
Yep.
Like one of my favorite ones is, I asked the handlers, do you have a dope dog? Yep. Okay. Do you pay your dog on the road? Well, no. If your dog hits on the road right now, are you going to pay him? And they're like, no. And I'm like, why not? Well, because what if he's not true?
Yeah, it's the age-old.
You trust him enough to and violate my client Fourth Amendment right, but you don't trust him enough to give him a robbery con.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard to explain that one on court.
Oh yeah.
Right. So the word I don't know, maybe because I'm not sure, don't help you in court.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So we need to understand things so you can help yourself, because there's people out there actively trying to like take Kenan away.
Yeah.
That's why the class that I did this morning was different than the one I did yesterday. It was effective communication, like silent communication for the modern digital age. Because you know what I say in that class? One other thing is, what is that Miranda right? What does it say? Like everything you say, what is it? How does it go?
So you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. You have a right to an attorney. If one can't be provided, one will be provided by the state.
The one, everything you say can and will be used against you.
Yeah.
You know the part they didn't tell you guys when they taught you the Miranda right? They also apply to you.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Things that could be used against you.
Everything you say can and will be used against you. So my lawyer, which I have on retainer, I pay him a lot of money to teach me, shut up. Right? Nobody told you guys to also shut up.
Yes.
Because it will be used against you.
For sure.
And back in the day, we could yell a narrative that maybe the neighbors are going to come testify for you. But now you have a first point of view camera.
That's very true.
That will make your narrative a lie.
Yeah.
So these training scars that we have of stop fighting my dog when nobody's fighting your dog. All these like things like pocket.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go testify what does pocket means.
Yeah.
It means attack.
Yeah.
What do you tell my dog to attack 37 times while he was already attacking my client?
Yeah, it's very true.
Like, you better. The other party is like, good job, buddy. Yeah, good job. Sir, you seem very excited of mauling my client.
Right. Yeah.
These are the things that you get off on.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to explain. Well, no, I was trying to reward my dog.
Yeah.
There was 2 things happening there. Your dog was having huge success, but somebody else was having the worst day of their life, probably.
The best deployments on dogs engaging that I love, it's like music to my ears, is when the handler's being sympathetic to the person that's getting bit. It's just, hey, buddy, I know that sucks, or whatever it is. I know I'm going to get him off. I just need you to do this. I need you to show me your hands. I'm going to get him off here in a second. I know that hurts. Just give me a minute. And then it's super calm, not yelling, not screaming. Those for me, it's like that's textbook of what with the expectation to be, including myself, who's still working a patrol dog. Like that, I hope that every single deployment goes exactly like that.
Yeah, we had a guy in our department in Marion that he's legitimately an amazing human being. Like he's a really good person, to the point that he did not like the biting people part, because he was really like, we get after out there.
Yeah.
So he was like, man, like, you know. And one time he bit this one guy, bit into his soul. Like this guy was screaming.
Yeah.
And you can hear in the handler's voice the stress and sense of urgency as he tells him, bro, I'm begging you, stop moving so I can help you and take the dog off. I want this to stop.
Yeah.
The DA came down there, bro. If you guys say that every single time, we don't lose a case.
I love that. I love
Humanize the moment.
Amen.
Try to give them things they can do. My handlers, like in the presentation I gave today, I was showing deployments of that. I was like, listen how he deals with it. Let me see your hand. No, let me see your right hand.
Yes.
Put it behind your back. I know, but until you do that, I can't do it, right? Like, give him actionable things. And as a decoy, when I have handlers come over and I tell them, all right, this is what we're going to work on. This is what I want you to do.
Yeah.
And then I tell them, hey, with your right hand, pet the dog. And then they grab the left one. And I'm like, no, your other right, right? You see how you didn't follow any of my commands,
so
and
true.
you're not even stressed.
Yes.
You're mauling this guy with your dog, and you're telling him things, and they're not doing it, and you think they're messing with you. Dude, they're not. They're not even hearing you.
No.
Right? So break it down to the commands you're giving can be perceived, analyzed, and processed by a person in an extreme stress that's in survival mode.
Yeah.
Can deal with it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It has to be concise, calm, and repetitive.
Yep.
Repeat it enough to the brain processes. But you have to humanize it. The whole, I was reading an article. It was in the Journal of Law Enforcement and Criminal, something like that was the name of the article. But it was the effective of profanities during deployment and the public's perspective on how much force is used.
Interesting. Yeah.
So basically, they studied female officers and male officers, and they said that the public's perception was always that it was more force. It was excessive force if profanity was included.
Interesting.
And it didn't matter if it was a male or a female officer.
Wow.
It was always perceived as more force.
Yep.
So just the way you address things, your tone, the way you do it, tells a lot. The other part is, how often do you buy a car? Like one every 7-10 years, right?
Yeah.
How often does a salesman sells a car? Hopefully, if he's a good salesman, a couple a day, one a day. No wonder whenever we go buy cars, we get screwed over.
Yeah, they're good at their
job. They're good at it. They do it that much often.
Yeah.
I only do it one every 7 to 8 years. So why in the transaction where the police officer who does this 20 times a year, like my guys in my department, they get 45, 60 bites a year, versus the other person probably has never been bit on their lives.
Yeah.
Why are they? You shouldn't be stressed.
Yep.
You're the salesman, bud.
Yeah.
You do this every day. Like, be professional. Show it by staying calm. Don't go to the extreme state of arousal, just like the person getting bit is.
Yeah.
Don't match that.
Of course.
Be the calm, right? And like I say, it's easy for a civilian that's never been in law enforcement, the military, that's never been in that situation to sit here and do it.
Right.
But in training and the departments I work with and I have helped, they do it successfully, no problem.
Yeah. So we know it's possible. We absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But the excitement of he bit, and the people go over there.
Yep.
It can screw you over because you're so excited for your dog that it may seem like you're excited for hurting someone.
Get excited later. Have a party later.
That's it.
Talk to your friends later about it. But at the time of the moment, you have to be sympathetic about what's happening in front of you.
And if we understand behavior, the dog doesn't need it.
No, absolutely not.
The reaction from the person.
You can make the argument that getting that excited will be different than the dog normally hears you. Exactly. And you may get something that you haven't seen from your dog because of that. You may get more pulling. You may get more conflict. Who knows, right?
Exactly. And it's also like they work like words and actions from the handlers are precursors to the worst thing they have out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So, be quiet goes that much further, man. Yeah. And who is in the wild encouraging and rewarding predators?
Yeah.
No one's out there telling the lion, man, that was a hell of a catch when they caught a gazelle, right? Like nobody, they don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So they don't need it. By the time your dog made the decision of overcome stress with aggression, they rewarded themselves.
Yes.
By the time that choice was made, the reward was done. They don't need you.
Yep.
So, and more, I always call your voice as like everything in that dog's brain. So whenever you talk, you're taking real estate from his brain from me. I'm creating a calculus problem here, bud. I can have you talking to him and taking part of his brain to focus on you.
Right.
Because since the day you got that dog, you told him you listen to this voice or else.
Right.
So whenever he's working with me and he hears you, boop,
he's cued into your voice and he wants to give you the attention, right?
Exactly.
And he's looking for direction sometimes when all of those instincts and his attention should be on the exercise, whatever that may be. That's it. That, by the way, that's why I love the out command to be the dog's name, because in stressful situations, it's easier for him to hear something like his name, as opposed to maybe something like, and you talked about it before, like, hey, bad guy, stop moving, blah, blah, blah. All these preparatory things that are going to drive the dog further in preparation for something that he's perceiving as negative is about to happen. So, yeah, man, it's so much. We went over so much. Dude.
Yeah, no, and it's something you think about it. If there's a warning for when really bad things are going to happen, dude, everybody freaks out, right? Like, if it just happens, it happens, right? But if you know it's coming, it's that much worse.
Yeah, nobody hears a hurricane alarm and says, everyone chill out. Everything's going to be fine.
Bingo.
It's a call to movement. The
second it happens, it's like, oh, that alarm is the marking that something really bad is happening.
And as Puerto Ricans, we understand.
We know. That's right.
It's no joke.
Yeah, exactly, man.
It's no joke. So, question for you. And we asked all our instructors the same one. You have been doing this for quite a bit of time. In that time, I'm sure you've made mistakes, you've learned things. So the 2024 version of Carlos Ramirez, if you had an opportunity to take a time machine and go back from the first day you picked up a leash and worked the dog, what's the advice? Look at that camera right here and give yourself advice. Tell him what he should know.
Be patient. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I love it.
Be patient. It's going to happen. Just keep your head down. Keep doing what you're doing. It's going to happen.
I love it.
That's it.
Dude, I love it. Thank you for your time today, man.
Thank you for having me, man.
This has been awesome. Fun. I appreciate it. I hope we can work together in the future.
Anytime.
I'll get you back in Texas for sure if you want to get back.
I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely. I love Texas.
Yeah. Do you miss the barbecue? Did you get an opportunity to have good barbecue?
The food, man. Like I said, like between the Mexican food and the barbecue and stuff, man, it was definitely good. And like, I'm a barbecue guy.
Oh, me too,
really like barbecue. Dude, it was awesome.
Good. Well, I can't wait to get you to Dallas so we can show you some of the barbecue places.
But looking forward to it.
Thank you for what you do for the industry. Your perspective on what our priorities should be, I think, are spot on.
Thank you.
I think your humbleness is poured out for everybody to see. It's not something that is you're hiding, and you're not trying to be that. You're just being yourself. It's very genuine. You can tell.
I don't know as much as people give me credit for, so I'm like, I'm just gonna keep being here until somebody goes like, wait, what is that guy doing here?
No, it's great, and I love the dynamic duel that you have with Nesbitt. I think you guys complement each other very well.
Yeah.
And in our industry, we need guys to advocate for the things that are just reality and get away from some of the just stuff. Well, that's just the way it's always been. All those things really need to stop in an industry that we are looked at professionals. It's a lot of times it is life and death. We got to get this stuff right. So
yeah, you got to make it home, man.
Hey, man. Thank you, brother, for your time. Appreciate
it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for supporting the Next Level podcast. As we bring you industry leaders in science, technology, law enforcement, military, and the canine industry, would you let us know what guests would you like to see? We definitely have a list of people who are scheduled to come on, and I don't want to spoil it, but I am super excited. But yeah, give me an idea of who you would like to see on the podcast and have interviewed. We're also going to do some like in the field interviews too, which is, I guess, maybe not necessarily a podcast, but we'll make it work. The idea is to bring you information, like quality information from, all over the world. So we're excited to be able to do that. If you hadn't had a chance to see episode 1, there should be a card to my right or my left. I'm still trying to figure out this YouTube thing. Check it out. Let us know what you think. And, we really appreciate the support. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We'll see you soon.